You're listening to Genuine Chit-Chat. This show is for real.
Hello there guys and welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week I'm joined by author, podcaster and returning guest Frank Burton. Now any returning listeners will recognise that this isn't how my mic normally sounds because I am actually currently in Scotland and I don't get back till tomorrow, so I'm recording off my phone, so apologies if this sounds a little bit bad, but fear not, the full conversation with Frank is with my normal microphone and it sounds great because I've already edited it and stuff. So I just want to clarify that in case anyone's listening and thinking this doesn't sound as good as normal. Has Mike changed his mic? No, I'm just using my phone. A couple of quick bullet points before we get started. So Frank has been on the show 3 times before on episodes 34, 56 and 86. And also there's loads of links in the description to his website and a link to his book and the appearances I've had on his shows as well. So lots of things to keep you entertained in the show notes. But for this conversation specifically, we talk about how Frank is changing his podcast, the Ragbag podcast, into different things in 2022 and how he keeps track of the sort of Ragbag universe because his podcast and his books all kind of intertwine. But fear not, if you've never listened to his podcast and if you've never listened to or read any of his books, it doesn't matter. We don't spoil any of the books, but we talk about things in general terms. We also talk about how Frank put the audiobook together and the voices he put on, as well as the main idea for the book. So this is quite a good promo for the book itself, while also if someone's already listened to or read the book, then it's quite a good companion piece as well. So it works in several ways, and there's a few other bits and pieces we talk about, but just listen on and you'll hear that, or if you're really impatient, then just check the description. And I want to clarify relating to the title, this book, which is Getting Away With It, is completely free. I mean, I would recommend you give Frank some money for it, but you can go to his Bandcamp, which link is in the description for that, and you can listen to the full audiobook version on there. It's name your price, so you can pay nothing, or you can pay, a few quid. For people who are outside of the UK, that's pounds, or a few dollars, whatever you want to do. And also Frank's previous book, Everything I Am, is also on the Frank Burton Bandcamp as well. That is also name your price. So you can listen on there, you can listen on the feed of Ragbag. He's put it up in several sections, and you can actually buy the physical book as well, but all that information should be on frankburton.co.uk, which is in the description. And that's about it from me, guys. I'm not going to ramble on too much here, so I'll let the full conversation come out, and then right at the end of the conversation, I'm going to add in my outro, confirming what's coming up, a bit more information, and that sort of thing as well. So really hope you guys enjoy this. Make sure you follow Frank on Twitter, at RagbagPresents, or at RagbagRambler. Both of those are in the description. And just, review, rate, do all that sort of usual great stuff. And I'll talk to you guys at the end. So I give you Frank Burton. Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. And I'm your host, Mike Burton. And here we are. I am with a returning guest, someone who shares my last name, but there is no relation. It is Frank Burton. Frank, I already asked you this before pressing record, but how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm still doing good. I was doing good 20 seconds ago, and I'm still doing good now.
Wonderful. That's good to hear. And so since we last spoke, funnily enough, the last time we spoke actually was in real life, because when me and Megan, some people who, Patreon supporters would have heard the road trip we went on, and we went to Manchester and things, and we met with you for a coffee, which is lovely to be able to see each other and people. Because it's funny, because the first podcast we ever recorded, I'll have to make a note of it in the intro because I didn't write it down, is obviously we recorded that outside when we first met. So that was quite a cool, a different way to meet someone through podcasting, is to do it in person outside. And then after that, do every now and then, every year or so, do a Zoom call sort of one. It's fun. It's good to be you're one of my earliest podcasting friends. It's great.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah, and it's nice to still be involved and to be keeping it up like this. So it's cool. It's cool to be back on the show.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you. So you've got some new things that have come out, but before we specifically delve into the new, the sort of main part of the conversation, I want to ask you about Ragbag. So your podcast. You've been through some changes, really. So for people who aren't familiar, you could you tell them what Ragbag sort of was and what you're kind of turning it into and sort of why? Because it'd be want more people to listen to your show, so it's always a good way to do that.
Yes. Okay. So Ragbag has been going for about 3 years, I guess. I started in 2018, and I'm coming up to my 100th episode now, which is kind of crazy and kind of cool. And the show, as it stands at the moment, it is music, comedy, and storytelling is what I bill it as. So it's a bunch of different stuff. I play a bit of music. I do a bit of crazy stuff to hopefully make the listeners laugh and tell some stories. And from the storytelling element, I went into writing novels. You know, as you do as a spin-off from a podcast nowadays. And, so yeah, the novels have kind of taken over. So I've written 2 books and I've actually written 3 now. So the 3rd one's coming out next year. So I'm modifying the podcast as of episode 100 and I'm taking a few of the elements out of it. So it's going to stop being a music show as of the end of this year. And it's just going to be a storytelling podcast to kind of accompany the series of books that I'm writing, because I've really just got stuck into writing the series of books. So the new show is going to have a slightly different name. It's going to be called Ragbag Presents rather than Ragbag, because each series is going to present a different tale, and at the end of each series of Ragbag Presents there will be a book to accompany the series, so that will be a novel, and the show will basically be kind of a serialization of the story that will go into that novel at the end. So that is the new show, Ragbag Presents.
Wow. That's incredible. You're creating like a full-on Ragbag universe. I mean, I know before when we've spoken in the past, your podcast did heavily tie in with, Everything I Am, and then obviously now Getting Away with It. So it is one of those things where you've always kind of had that, I hate to almost use the word, but like synergy in a sense where it kind of melds together. But now it's like you are going full-on into that era. Have you find have any listeners contact you and prefer that way out of interest? I know obviously with your music one, some of them we did get quite a few listens and that sort of thing, but I didn't know if you've heard from listeners with that kind of change, which I fully support as a listener. I want to clarify.
Well, I think people have responded very positively to the books. So, and because of that, I'm kind of focusing on that element of it. And I really like doing the music and the crazy stuff that I do alongside the music. But I can't really keep that up alongside kind of focusing on various different things. So I'm doing another podcast as well called I Like the Sound, which I started this year, and that's really good as well. So I just kind of haven't got time to do all this extra stuff really. So I'm kind of streamlining it. But also I think I'm kind of making the show better because it's kind of like I can do 100 episodes in this style, and that's quite a lot, isn't it? 100.
Yeah.
And if I carry on doing the same thing beyond that, it feels like I'm just going to be repeating myself in some way, or kind of like replicating what I've done in the past. So rather than I just want to make it into something different and kind of evolve into something new. And focusing on the storytelling is for me the way to go, because I think I'm really kind of into the series of books, and I think the books are great.
They are fantastic. I recommend, I'll be talking about it in the intro as well, and we'll talk about it more in this episode as well, but they are both fantastic. And you've put them up, you can listen to them on your podcast feed, or you can go on to a Bandcamp and thing and name your price. And so it's and there's various different ways you can check it out, and you can get the physical book. So it's and I'll let you plug at the end with all the sort of bits and pieces, and obviously in the description, while people are hearing this, the links and stuff will already be down there. So go check it out. But they are a lot of fun. I always look forward to you releasing them and us getting a chance to be able to discuss them and things. And just before we get into that realm, especially with the new book, I wanted to ask you about, I can't remember if I asked you this before or not, it's the thing when you have a returning guest who's been on quite a few times. When you note down things for your Ragbag universe, do you, out of interest, do it on notebooks? Do you have computer sheet, different Word documents, for example, open with lots of things? How do you plan something that is quite wide reaching, especially when there's things that are timeline wise in different places? I've always think that's such a clever thing that you've always done.
Thanks. It's to be honest, it's kind of all in my head, which I do make notes. I do make a lot of notes, but it's not necessarily to do with kind of things making sense in terms of time, because I've kind of got a timeline in my head of kind of when things happened along this timeline, so to speak. So, just to clarify what I'm going on about is that the stories that I tell on the podcast and the series of books, the stories are kind of not in any particular order. They're not chronological. So the first book is kind of starts off when I'm a fictional character, by the way. He has my name, just in case anybody doesn't know that. So I'm writing about, it's basically a series of fake autobiographies. So I am the central character in these books. The central character's name happens to be Frank Burton, and he happens to be a writer, and he happens to have my voice and my face. But from there on, we differ. But anyway, so the first book kind of starts when Frank is 6 years old, and it ends in the present day. The second book starts when Frank is 18, and it's set over the course of a few years between like 1998 and 2004. So there's a bit of the second book that overlaps with a bit of the first book, which is quite nice, you know, and I quite like the way that I've been able to do that. And like the third book's going to be set in the present day, so I'm not too worried about that, because it doesn't clash with anything at all. It's just kind of new stuff that happened. So that's quite nice. But I'm actually writing the fourth book now, which is a lot of fun. And that kind of goes right back to Frank's childhood again. And I'm kind of writing about Frank's childhood, which is quite a lot of fun, actually. So, but it's kind of, the timeline's just, I just feel like it's an alternative life that I'm living. I'm so far into it that I just know it, you know. I don't need to check. I just I can just dip into this other life. I'm so far invested in this second life, second fictional life of mine. I kind of feel like fictional Frank is a real person, and the people around him are real as well.
It's amazing though, because they are like, some of the characters, I've just written a note to make sure I didn't forget this thought, is, you know, there's the overlap and things, and I loved hearing Uncle, what's his
Uncle
name?
Claude.
Claude, that was it. Yeah, I loved hearing Uncle Claude's name. I loved hearing his voice a few times in Getting Away with It. I loved that part. I was like, yes, because I loved him in Everything I Am. And obviously, you know, there's other characters that pop up as well, which are ace to hear again. And with your childhood book that's going to be coming out, I mean, this must be quite hard. Like, you're talking about your second book because it's been released, while also going ahead with your podcast and things, while also you've finished the third book, so now you're on the fourth book, so you're like thinking 2 books ahead while talking about a book 2 books ago. God, that must be difficult.
Yeah, kind of, but it's a good position to be in, because I'm really far ahead of myself now, you know. I've found that these books have been great fun to write, so it's kind of like I've been kind of getting to write them quite quickly, just because it's just been good fun, and they're an enjoyable thing to be involved with, you know. So yeah, they're
an enjoyable thing to listen to, and like with your childhood as well. Like, I'm interested by your mum more in Everything I Am. I was like, you know, I didn't like her much, obviously. She's not necessarily a likable character. But then after time and thinking about it, and then when I saw like glimpses in Getting Away with It, it was like, I kind of, you know, I want to see more about that kind of, that character in certain ways. Is she going to feature, of what you can tell us, in the childhood book much? I presume she would.
Yeah. We kind of explore, get into exploring Frank's relationship with his parents as a child. And I mean, he's from quite a dysfunctional family. So, you know, his mum's an alcoholic, and his dad kind of has some gambling issues and other issues as well. He's kind of a crazy guy. So, but he's a fun character to be around as well. So, I kind of get into all that, and it's been nice to get back into those, because those 2 characters aren't in the third book at all. So I kind of had a break from them. And so going back to the fourth, the one that I'm writing at the moment, and kind of rediscovering those characters, it's kind of it's kind of nice to kind of slip back into it again, and kind of explore their relationships a little bit more within that sort of within that family.
Yeah, they're definitely very compelling characters, and I think they do work really well. Like, especially with Getting Away with It, you know, the big new main character is Jenna, and you know, she's central to the plot and things. And I'm not going to spoil it for listeners, because I want people to go check it out. But like, writing a character like her, and then you've already got the younger version of Frank Burton, which obviously we saw a bit of in. I'm just speaking purely about the book elements of these, but with it, you got to see that element of a little bit of him at that age, but it was more so him sort of present day. So you got to make a younger version of yourself, and you kind of comment on how you were then in certain ways. And I quite like that, because the first, in some ways for you, it was kind of like almost like a coming of age sort of story, in wrapped in a lot of other things, because you've got that kind of towards the tail end of being a teenager and becoming an adult and things, while everything else is going on, which is like almost like the main plot in some ways, the journey that you are going on is also kind of growing up in some ways, which I've only really just thought of that now, but I really like that element of it as well. It makes fictional Frank more enthralling. You want to know more about everything about the character and his family, and that's why I'm interested by the parents as well, because of these seeds that you sow within the story.
Yeah. I think I kind of, it is a fictional character and none of this stuff is true, but I did kind of draw on some of my own experiences of just like the feelings that you have of moving away from home for the first time and kind of going off on your own and exploring the world. And I kind of tried to capture some of my own experiences within that and kind of insert them into the book, that was quite nice, quite cathartic. But I mean, like you're saying, you can't really help yourself kind of looking back with, because I'm talking about something that happened 20 years ago now. And I keep sort of bringing in my own perspective now and thinking, that's weird that I was thinking that at that time, wasn't it? And just with hindsight.
Yeah, it is one of those things where I completely agree with you. And there are just little moments of it. And I like the on the nose elements, the sort of meta elements of your stories as well. Like they're not too in your face. They're just the odd little thing. And I really like that. I like the little threads as well. There's like a lot, like I can imagine on a re-listen of this sort of thing, once you kind of know, because this plot, much like it's different to Everything I Am, but they both have, with a lot of plots, obviously, it goes towards a goal of finding something out, in essence. There are things that you find out along the way, and that's kind of where you are at the end. And it's like going back to the start and going through them again, because the end, obviously, it's giving you clues, or you're giving the reader clues, or listener clues the whole time. If you go back to the start and listen to it again, there's a lot of little connections and things which kind of almost make a second listen even, some would maybe even consider like better, in certain ways. When you know what the things that happen are, you can kind of see the details that you missed the first time.
Yeah. It's fun to do that. It's fun to plant these little things at the start of the story, which kind of could be nothing or could be a significant thing. But I mean, you can usually tell, I try and make everything relevant. So like if I kind of mention something in the first or the second chapter that seems like a completely innocuous thing that isn't important.
Yeah.
That's important. Okay. Just pay attention to that bit because that's going to be important later on. And sometimes I like to say things like that as well because I kind of like, it's not breaking the fourth wall. What is it? What am I doing? I'm commenting on the action that I'm describing. So I'll say things like, pay attention to that bit. Okay, this is going to be important later on. It doesn't seem like it's important now, but it is. So just memorize that. Okay. And I have fun doing little things like that sometimes.
It must be also extra fun because obviously you release the audiobook version as well, which I love. That's the way I consume them, and it's just because of that you can put certain inflections on certain elements, and because it is literally you talking about you, but a fictional version of those things, it works so well with. I find the listening experience you get. Not only do you do the voices and things for different characters, but I feel like it does. For me, in an audio format, it worked really well. Did you find that recording it in the audio format is also the more fun part than actually writing it? Or do you think, what's your opinion on that?
Well, the two things kind of go together, really, because it grew out of the podcast. I've kind of written the books with the audio version in mind. And so, it's very much part of the writing process that I think about how it's going to sound, which is not something that I used to do. I mean, years ago, I just used to write stories and they used to go in a book and that was it. There was no kind of audio at all. I didn't even think about it. But now it's very much an integral part of the books that the audio version. I mean, a lot of people are just going to consume the audio version and they're not going to get the physical copy of the book, So kind of in a way, the audio version is kind of like the main version. And there are things about kind of the audio versions and but kind of the voices that I do for the characters that kind of you get a certain you get kind of a slightly different version of the character with the audio, because kind of the voice, obviously you don't hear the voice in the book, so it's kind of like obvious point to make, Frank. But it's kind of like there is no real description of like for example, Uncle Claude talks like this. It's got a very silly voice, and he talks with very high inflection. But if you read the book, it's just talking perfectly normally. But adds that extra element to the character having the voice. So that's quite important. And also another thing that I'm going to be doing, I haven't done it yet, but kind of with the new podcast, that's going to be kind of the accompaniment to the book series. So I've been thinking about the way that I perform the books. I've always tried to do this. I've always tried to make it kind of sound like I'm not reading the book, I'm just talking to you, and not exactly talking off the top of my head, but it's like fictional Frank is telling you this story, and he's just saying it as it is,
Yeah.
But you can't 100% get that. I mean, it's kind of obvious that I am reading it, because the lines are just that little bit too clean and too kind of carefully prepared, So, but what I'm going to try and do, I think, is, in terms of the delivery of it with the next one, I'm just going to make it even more kind of just that little bit extra, that little bit more kind of relaxed in terms of the way that I say it, and maybe slip a few things in there, like a few kind of, do you know what I mean? That sort of thing, a few little kind of conversational bits and pieces, just as though I am just telling this story off the top of my head. So I'll see how I get with that. I mean, it might sound horrible. I might have to re-record the whole thing, but it's it's an experiment more than anything else, I guess. Yeah. So
you must have found that also recording each, because where you started off podcasting and things, and then when you recorded the first book for Everything I Am, when you did that, and then you've been podcasting in the meantime, and then recorded Getting Away with It. With that, you must find that Getting Away with It was that like the easiest thing to record almost in your podcasting career, in a sense? Like, I know obviously individual episodes are easier because they're like an hour long, but did you find that was quite easy, or did you find the opposite because you know what you're doing now, you kind of put even more time into it?
No, I always find the recordings, it takes longer than writing the damn book. It really is a struggle. I shouldn't call it a struggle. It's hard work, is what I'm trying to say. I try and I focus a lot of energy into it. Maybe I kind of overthink it as well, because I spend a lot of time thinking about how am I going to say that particular line and stuff like that. I've sort of really kind of think about the inflection of my voice in certain bits, and I kind of do a little rehearsal before I do the actual recording of it. So, and then I have to kind of choose, like, if there's a new character, it's kind of like, what voice am I going to do for this person? What is their voice going to sound like? And so that's kind of an interesting thing. But kind of the funny thing is with kind of the Jenna character, who's kind of the main, not protagonist, what is that? The book is basically about the friendship between Frank and Jenna. And so she's in the book an awful lot. So there's a lot of her voice in the book. And so I had to settle on a voice that I could comfortably do,
Yeah.
Because if it's uncomfortable for me, it's going to be very uncomfortable, because this is a long damn book, and I've got to read all of this stuff out in this voice, and I've also got this thing about, because it's a female character, and one of my big kind of bugbears about audiobooks, I don't know if you found this with audiobooks, but like when you got a male reader doing a female character, and they put on this voice, I'm a woman now. Hello, I'm a woman. That really annoys me when they do that, But so I don't try and do that, So it sounds like a male voice, but that's fine, because I've told you it's not a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can believe it's a woman. I've told you that it is. You know that it's me reading it, don't you? It's not a woman who's walked in.
Yes, it is fun, but you're not that good. Maybe with Claude, I think although you did graciously do a Claude impression here, which I cherish. With that, if you said someone else did that, I'd be like, okay, that sounds so different. I could get that, but most of your other voices, it's because you're reading it though, and because you're doing it, you get what you want from it being a different voice. So when there's conversations, you can understand who's talking to who. But as you say, there's not that kind of ridiculous silliness, because at the end of the day, it is someone kind of telling you a story. So it's almost like their impression of that character. Yeah. And the character like Frank, who's basically saying, I'm telling you this whole story. So I do an impression of the person I'm doing, and it sounds like I'm doing an impression of that person. Yeah. So I think it just adds even more so into the Ragbag world.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
There we go. But I mean, the voice that I eventually settled on anyway it's basically she talks with the same voice as me, but I do it ever so slightly quicker, because she's quite manic. She's kind of like, she's got lots of ideas in her head. She's got a lot of things to say, and she wants you to get it out as fast as she can. So she talks like this. But I didn't want to do it kind of too fast, because otherwise, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying. So I just ever so slightly just talk quicker and a little bit kind of breathless and a little bit sort of really kind of enthusiastic about, and then sort of go back to Frank's voice, which is a lot more kind of, what are you talking about, man? And he kind of slows it all down. It's kind of the back and forth between the two of them, just kind of changing the speed of the voice each time. So that was I think that worked well in the end, actually. I think it worked okay.
Yeah, there's never a time that I was confused of what characters were talking either, and I think that's an important thing too. And it has to kind of not take you out of it, but also you have to be able to differentiate, especially when there's certain conversations going on. And I never found that there was a problem hearing you do the voices and and you'd be different characters. Like you could clearly hear it was different characters. Like even when it was just like yourself and your dad, but obviously your dad's got the kind of more rougher, air quotes, rougher voice. It's the sort of, it's just the different characters have certain inflections, you said with Uncle Claude. So I like that element of it as well. But sort of other parts with your book, like the universe that it's in, like I had to ask you off air, there's a certain story that is told about, am I allowed to say even the name of them? I don't want to spoil any of your book.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so the story of the Three Strop group, and I had to ask real Frank, if it was actually a real thing, because in the book it sounds like something that really could be. So I'm just interested, like how, when you thought of that, like was that something where you came to the thing of, okay, I need to have a big idea, or did you have the idea and then you decided to kind of mold the book around it? Like because that obviously thing is quite central to the plot in certain ways, but it's also not the main theme, because there's not one main theme in the plot aside from the friendship.
No, but it's an important I mean, we can reveal this though, because it's an important part of the book, and it's kind of a lot of the plot is kind of based around this story. So I've got a long answer to this. Okay,
good. Please give it up.
Sit back and relax. So I had this idea that the premise of the book is that the starting point that I had for writing it was that all I knew was how it was going to end up and it ends up with Frank being arrested and going to prison. And I'd already established this in the previous book. So in Everything I Am, the first book, I say there's a part in that where everything stops because Frank has to go to prison for 6 months, and then he gets out of prison again, and the action carries on. And then he says, I'm not going to tell you why I went to prison. I'll tell you in the next book. So that's what the next book's going to be about. And so that was the starting point, and I knew that the book was going to end up with Frank being in prison. I didn't know what was going to happen before that. So that was the basis of it. So I was thinking, like, how can Frank end up in prison for 6 months? What fun shall we have with this? So my original idea was, I was thinking maybe he could be unwittingly involved in a crime somehow. So maybe he'd be involved in a bank robbery and he'd be the getaway driver or something like that. He'd be kind of like hoodwinked into it somehow, because he's not kind of the kind of guy who would go out and commit crimes. He's not that kind of character at all, but he is the kind of character who could be easily tricked into doing something. So you could see him being a getaway driver in a bank heist, So, but then I was thinking, then I got to thinking about this idea of so he's the getaway driver. So he's in in the car while the heist is going on. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Frank, the getaway driver, doesn't know what is going on in the building at the time because he's just in the car. So really anything could be happening in the building. So then I thought maybe there isn't a robbery at all. And it's just somebody's told him that there is a robbery, and they've told him that he's the getaway driver, and he believes that he's the getaway driver, but actually there's something else happening. And so that kind of got the ball rolling a little bit. And then I had this idea of, which is a similar idea, that Frank would get involved in a series of crimes that he's not sure if those crimes are happening. So it's just that his friend is telling him that this is what is happening, but you can't be involved with this because you get into lots of trouble. So you just stand back. I'll come back and tell you what I've done. And so Jenna tells him all of these stories about these kind of acts of extortion that she's basically kind of holding historical buildings hostage, and on the basis that there are explosives in the building. And this is based on an apparently true story, which is not a true story, in answer to your question, about a group called the Three Stroke Group. I just made that word up. It's just, I just thought, yeah, I'll call them that. What the hell? Apparently this story happened, this is kind of an urban legend story that happened in the 1980s in Paris. They took the Eiffel Tower hostage. They said that there were explosives in the building and everyone needs to evacuate. You need to give us £1 billion francs, otherwise we will explode the Eiffel Tower, and that'll be that. And the authorities were saying to them, well, how do we know that there are explosives in the building? Well, you're just going to have to take our word for it. And they were kind of bluffing them the whole time. There were no explosives. But they successfully extorted that money because the government didn't want to see the Eiffel Tower being destroyed, and they got away with it. So that has kind of passed into urban legend because the whole thing was covered up. It's kind of an official secret. It never officially happened. So it's kind of one of these kind of urban legends, which, I just made it up, so it's not true. But I mean, there is, it's kind of a slight nod to an actual true story, which I really like this one. I don't know if you've heard it, but somebody successfully sold the Eiffel Tower in the early 20th century. They sold the Eiffel Tower to a group of scrap metal dealers because there was a story about in the news about the maintenance costs of the Eiffel Tower were too high. So there was talk of them dismantling the Eiffel Tower. And so this was a kind of a controversy at the time. And this con man kind of latched onto this, and he approached all of these scrap metal dealers and said, well, you've seen the news, yeah? This is true. This is all happening. So I am the sales rep for the Eiffel Tower. I can sell you this metal at a good price, He went round to all these scrap metal dealers. He sold the Eiffel Towers to them, one at a time. Each of them bought the Eiffel Tower. And he made millions from this, And he got caught. But I love that scheme, though. That's a great scheme he had going for a while, selling the Eiffel Tower.
That is good.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that if that doesn't make you want to read or listen to this book, then I don't know what does. I always like your sort of, it's almost grounded madness in certain ways. Like your books aren't crazy at all, but there's just certain ideas that are like, obviously, the 100 was a lot more crazy, but that's not in the Ragbag universe. It's its own thing. But like, I like how when you have an off the wall idea, it doesn't evolve into madness. It's just like almost surreal in certain ways, or intrigue. Kind of is one of those things where it's like all these things. One of the reasons that your fiction is so good is because like it could, like especially Everything I Am. Like I'm not going to spoil the ending of that, but it's just like. That all these things could happen. It's not like the book ends is like, oh, and the secret about my dad was he was a werewolf, and that's the end of that. It's
yeah. Well, I like this, and I particularly like this idea. The Eiffel Tower story. Like I came up with that, and I was thinking, well, how would that work in real life, though? If someone were to do that, how would the government actually? How would the person taking that call from that person react, and what processes would be followed, and what would they have to do in order to, what decisions would be made? And I was thinking, it's actually you could get away with that. You could do that. And, nobody could do anything about it if you did it in the right way and you weren't able to be traced. But if you're using kind of a phone line that couldn't be traced, like you've got this whole thing about Jenna, who's kind of this master criminal, is making these phone calls to the government from outside the country, and they can't tell where it is that she's calling from, and all this sort of thing. And it's kind of I think there's a plausibility to it, but also in the fact that because we don't know whether it's actually happening or not, we can only take Jenna's word for it. So there is a whole question mark over the whole thing the whole time. Maybe she's making it up, or maybe it's really happening. And I think I've done that deliberately in terms of, because I know that some readers just won't go along with that. They won't see it. They would see that story as being a bit too far-fetched. And it's, if I reported it all as fact, like this was really happening, a lot of people would turn around and say, well, yeah, I'm not buying that, mate. But if I say, well, I don't actually know if it's true, she told me it is, you make your mind up, then there's something intriguing about that as well. There's something that kind of gets, different people will react in different ways. Like some people will read that book and they will think, yeah, I can see that. I can see those crimes taking place in real life. And, other people will just think that's mad. That's absolutely no way that would happen.
I like to think we live in a world where everything in the Ragbag universe could work. Maybe it's just one of our parallel universes.
Well, this is the rule that I have. Everything has to be plausible, just about. Just about. Yeah, just about. I mean, it could. Everything could, in theory, happen as it says it does in the books.
That should be the tagline for Ragbag Presents. Just about plausible. It's excellent. Get that on a t-shirt. Because I've got literal notes and things about it. Like several of my notes were, the three-strong group was part of it, and then there's also, purely fabricated experiences like in uni, and obviously you can confirm that you've had experiences that kind of influence, and you've taken like bits and pieces of certain experiences you've had and put them into the Frank story, but it's not, everything in there isn't what you've done. Anything like that. It's kind of fragments almost, if one could even call it that. So it's just like so many elements of it are like, you go, this could very easily happen. Like, especially, before you get onto the selling the historical buildings element, it's just so many of the young parts of it are just, you could see that happening. And I think that's what makes, there's a genre of film, I don't know what they're actually called, but I call them people films. So it's just where it's just like a bunch of people, Little Miss Sunshine, Juno, Way, Way Back, those sort of things, where it's just like, here's just a period of time in these people's life, and that's just what you get. And I feel like your books are that element. Obviously, there is a central theme, there's a part of it, but it's not what you kind of alluded, or what you said earlier on, is like, parts overlap. So you're building this kind of timeline of this fictional person. So it's like a people film, but a series. And I can't think of many, I can think of like comedy films that have got series and things, but like people films, usually just the one. So you've kind of got that good element, but in a way of a series, if you know what I'm waffling on about.
Yeah, no, that's true, actually. Yeah, it's a nice point. I like that. Yeah. It hadn't occurred to me, actually, but it's good. Yeah.
And so with your books, so I think we've obviously Everything I Am, we spoke about that, and I'll in the intro and stuff, and in the show notes I'll put what episode that was. And then we've got Getting Away With It was the one we're centrally talking about. Did you say the fourth one is about childhood, and that's going to be about the parents? So you say
no, not quite. Not it starts off. I mean, the fourth one is going to. There's going to be a lot of crazy stuff happening in the fourth one, but it starts off with Frank's childhood, and then it goes on. It goes on to like a period of his adulthood later on. Right. So yeah.
And the third one, what's the next one that we can look forward to next year? As much as you can say.
The third one is about a proper bank heist this time. That Frank literally gets involved in robbing a bank, but not in the way that you think. And it's quite an ambitious project, really. It's a lot of fun, but it was quite a challenge to write it for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it was set during the pandemic, which I didn't intend to. It was kind of the pandemic kind of hit after I'd kind of started. So it's kind of like, I'm going to have to deal with this pandemic thing now, aren't I? So I had to write the pandemic into it. That was a bit of a ball ache. And the pandemic was a ball ache, wasn't it?
It was. That's a very apt way of putting it.
And also because I'm literally using real people as characters. So I have this long-standing, I call it a joke, but it's become much more than a joke now. It's become actual part of the world that Frank is, and he has been on the podcast for many years. He's friends with Benedict Cumberbatch, and
Yep.
and Benedict Cumberbatch has appeared on the show. Not the real one. I've never met the guy, but I got my friend Dave to play him, and he did quite a good job. And so that was fun. But Benedict is going to be in the next book, and he's going to be robbing a bank with Frank. So,
Wow.
not in the way that you think. It's not a real bank. It's kind of like a secret society. That a secret society formed by these kind of A-list celebrities. So there's a lot of kind of there's not just Benedict. There's a number of other people who are involved in this secret society, and again, it's one of those things where it's kind of I've almost like created my own kind of urban myth about these Hollywood guys who run their own bank in kind of the middle of nowhere, but it's actually kind of like a secret club where they can go and hang out and be themselves and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the gist of the third book.
That sounds great because I think I've spoken to you about this before, but just to reiterate for any listeners, are you planning? It's just like it was a book a year, but you wanted, or did you want to do more than a book a year? With like the general plan of what you've got going on, because obviously you've already
a book a year is fine for me, thanks. Don't try and push me to get more than that. Jesus. No, for the foreseeable future, that is the plan. So, but 2021 is out of the way. Getting away with it is 2021's one, and 2022 is going to be the new one, which is going to be called Brollywood. So that's that. And once I've kind of got that out of the way, I should also mention that there's another thing that I'm working on as well, which I'm sure you will like, seeing as you like Uncle Claude. I've got big plans for Uncle Claude. So I'm going to be making a sitcom, like an audio sitcom starring Frank and Uncle Claude. It's going to be called Frank and Claude Are Following You. And it's basically those two characters kind of driving around in a van, and it's almost like they're like the Scooby-Doo gang, and they're driving around solving mysteries, but they're not proper mysteries. They're just kind of like trying to find lost keys and stuff like that, and they're just really, really inconsequential things. But it's more about them and the characters, about the way that they relate to each other and kind of the stage in their life that they are at and stuff like that.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun ride, that one. Yeah.
Is that going to be like a book, or is that going to be part of the podcast? Or
It's going to be a proper sitcom. It's going to be a 6-part situation comedy.
Wow, amazing!
Well, but it's kind of going to be done in kind of a mockumentary style. The premise is that Frank is recording him and Claude as they go about their travels, and Claude is kind of reluctantly being recorded because he doesn't quite like the idea. But he's kind of gone along with it because he's kind of been hoodwinked into it by Frank. So, so it's just kind of, there's going to be, I haven't kind of started recording it yet, and it's going to be kind of partly improvised and stuff. There's going to be the two of them kind of bantering with each other, but I mean, as you know, it's me doing both the voices, so it's kind of it really is a fake documentary. It's just one guy doing both the voices. It's kind of mad. It's kind of like a weird puppet show.
Oh mate, what a way to describe it. I mean, anything with more Claude in, like, I'm always happy for that. I thoroughly enjoy hearing just the Claude as the character, and just hearing his voice. It cracks me up. I love it. And it's one of those things with, like, where you're creating this world and all these sort of elements. Are there, like, I know you've already just told me all these ideas you've got, which is incredible, but like, in the like super long term, are you going to delve into like Frank's just all of Frank's life in essence? Are you going to do some like, I don't want to, if you've got anything that you don't want to speak about, don't say it, but like any crazy future stuff, or like you're just going to do spin-offs for characters, like, or have you, I know you've got like 5 projects on the go already, but I'm intrigued if you've kind of thought about that far ahead.
Not that far. I'm just going to see how it goes. I think I've got various different ideas. The third book's got quite a lot of new characters in, so there's a few kind of directions that I can take them in. Like there's bits of the third book that could be expanded into spin-off books type thing. So I'm kind of thinking along those lines. But yeah, I mean, I just like to see how it goes, really. I don't want to commit myself too firmly to any one idea, because sometimes you have an idea and then what I like to do is hang on to the idea for a while and see if the idea still feels good in a year's time. And then maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, or maybe I'll have a better one. And if that's the case, then I'll go with a better idea and ditch the other one.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I think about with tattoos. I'm just like, if you think about it for long enough, just don't do a brash, sudden decision. Just think about it for a while, and then if you're ready, then you can do it. It's not quite the same as an idea. Ideas can change like that. Whereas if you want to get a tattoo changed, it's a very expensive and timely procedure. I wanted to ask about, before, because we're getting towards the end here, but before we wrap up, I do want to ask a little bit about I Like the Sound. Because obviously, I've been on there, guys, so if you want to hear more of my voice, go over there. But there's plenty of really, really cool episodes. Do you want to just talk about the premise of I Like the Sound? You may have spoken about it in the last podcast, but I can't fully remember if you did, so I want people to check that out as well.
Yeah, so I Like the Sound is a show about sound itself, and that is the starting point, really. So it's a very, very open subject. So I've got quite a few. It's not a fictional show like Ragbag is. So there's not really a fictional element to this. It's more of a kind of a documentary style podcast with me being fairly serious. I throw in some jokes now and again, but it's kind of it's more kind of exploring sound as a subject. So I've had some great guests on, including yourself, obviously, and some other ones kind of talking about sounds that they like and things like that. And I don't go too far into kind of technical or scientific territory. It's more about kind of just, I really like the sound of a glass jar being opened, like kind of pop that it makes when you open a new kind of jar of jam. Yeah, it just goes. I love that.
It is great.
And it's just things like that, really. It's just like a really nice thing. It's kind of a bit of escapism, I suppose, really. And there's some episodes of it, it's just kind of me holding a microphone up to stuff and recording to see what it sounds like. Like, check this out. I've got some celery here. Let's see what the celery sounds like if you snap it in half. Do you like that?
That's pretty satisfying.
Good. That's good, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that good? You can hear it tearing in half.
It's great. It's like loads of little clicks. Like instead of one big crunch, it's lots of layered ones.
Yeah. I had this. I'll tell you what's a great. I'm sat right next to it right now. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I will warn you, Mike. I'm glad the listeners can't see the video here. This is very phallic. Here we go.
I see.
So it's a cactus, but just I don't know how nicely this is going to come across on the Zoom audio, but you hear that?
Yeah, the flicking noise of the things, but it's like so many of them at once. It kind of
beautiful.
I'm surprised you discovered that, like touching the spines of a cactus. Like that's quite a strange thing to, like, I'm terrified of touching those because if you get the ones with the little flowers on, you just get impaled. Obviously those ones are thicker spines, but how did you do that noise?
Well, I was just fishing. I was literally just fishing around for things to record. I was like, okay, what shall I record the sound of now? I thought, well, that's an interesting thing. I wonder what will happen if I do that. And it's not something that I would do just generally in day-to-day life. It's just kind of doing that. I Like the Sound has kind of opened up these little avenues for kind of little bits of everyday life that you don't necessarily think about all the time. So because
I remember when you spoke about, like, when you first spoke about doing the show and having me on and things, it was interesting because I was like, I don't like. There's a lot of sounds I do like, but it took me a while to really think of them. And occasionally, I do try and think of sort of more sounds. But there's loads of sounds I like, but trying to think of the more unique and different ones. Like I quite like when you don't really get them much anymore, but except maybe in hotel bathrooms, where it's like a roll of towel, and you pull the towel down, and it kind of goes. It's just like this infinite towel. I just think it's a really satisfying noise. It's just the rumble of it, and it's like rumble clean, rumble clean. And it's just like. It's one of those strange things that when I was a kid, I used to always like those. Or sometimes you get the one with the lever on it, and it's one big pull at a time, and it goes round. It's like, I was thinking about that the other day, and I can't think the last time I saw one of those, actually.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of, they've gone out of fashion, haven't they?
Probably the amount it takes to wash the thing like that, unless they just get rid of them, and then that's hugely wasteful.
I think there's some kind of hygiene thing. There must be.
Yeah. There's probably a reason they don't do it anymore, but I liked the sound. Hey, that's the show. So I'll put links and stuff in the description because I think I was on the words one, if I remember correctly.
Oh, you've been on about 2 or 3, actually.
Yeah, I've shared 2 of them that I recall. The third one I don't think I've yet listened to, or maybe I've listened. I'm certain I specifically remember hearing 2 of them. And the third one I can't fully remember. I'm going to have to go back to the start and do the whole back catalogue.
Oh, I've got you lined up, even though I recorded you telling me about you liking the sound of wrapping paper a long time ago now. But I've got you on talking about wrapping paper coming up.
Oh, good. For Christmas.
I'm having a break from I like the sound at the moment, but I'm kind of recalibrating a little bit, and it's going to come back and be kind of bigger and better, I hope. So I'm just gathering stuff together at the moment for it.
It's incredible.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept for a show, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. Like, especially like if you're in traffic, for example. That sounds like a weird one, but like both your shows are great for different reasons. One is an audio drama in essence, or at least the books are, and then it will become more into that story sort of stuff when you kind of go into the new year. And then you've got I Like the Sound, which is all about sounds and specific things. So if you're just in a car and stop still traffic, it's nice escapism almost, listening to all these different sounds, making you think you're not stuck in a car. Or you can listen to the other one, which is escapism in a very different way, taking you to the Ragbag universe. So go listen to both those shows, guys. They're amazing. I didn't know if there's any sort of final things you want to mention, Frank. And I was thinking, man, you're so busy, you've got a lot of stuff, and then people go to me, but you have 2 podcasts as well, and it's like, oh yeah. Whenever I talk to someone about having 2 podcasts, I'm always like, God, you must be mental to try and do a second one, especially how much work that goes into one. It's like, oh wait, I do that as well. So is there anything else on your plate, or any sort of thing that you want to just mention before we wrap up here?
I think the big thing that I'm working on at the moment is I'm going to do a big kind of final episode for Ragbag for episode 100, which is going to come out at the end of December, I think. So that is going to be Frank and Uncle Claude having lots of fun and playing some of my favourite music and just kind of reflecting on the last 3 years and finishing on a big musical number. So
oh wow.
Yeah, so I've sang songs with Claude before. It's fun singing songs with Claude.
Is it more fun singing songs with Claude when you've got the headphones and hearing his voice, or is it more fun actually being Claude and singing?
Oh, it's always fun being Claude and singing. Yeah, he's a better singer than me. This is the thing. I don't know why. He's actually a better singer than me.
Created a whole new personality and a whole new person who can actually sing better than you can. That is a next level talent.
He sings much better than me. He gets the tune spot on. I struggle, but Claude's away with it. Yeah,
amazing. I mean, this will be coming out probably this week, to be honest with you, in the next few days. Obviously, I'll tag you in social media and that sort of tomfoolery, and I'll make sure obviously when you do Ragbag 100 to listen and spread it across the podmosphere. But why don't you tell people? I know you were off social media for a while, which with you, when you said that to me a little while ago, I was like, I'm kind of jealous in one way, because it's a lot of effort having to post on social media that I don't like, and there's certain elements of it I don't like. Obviously, I like the element of connectivity, but yeah, when we discussed last time, it was like there are so many things that I like. My least favorite part of podcasting isn't editing; it's actually just having to post on social media. So I completely sympathize with you getting rid of it. But you're back on now, so people can find you. Full circle.
Oh, yeah, if they want to, Well, I'm on Ragbag Presents on Twitter and Instagram. That is, if you want to check me out. I came back on just because I like the sound, and I felt like I should kind of have some kind of social media presence with a new podcast. It seemed like the right thing to do. But, it is a token presence at best. Sometimes I'm not even there at all. But, I post new episodes and stuff on there, and that's about it. I don't really use it very much. Not a big fan of the social medias. But
you can find them. It's at the very least you can find stuff. Because I did remember on Twitter, it was actually how, I know you told me about it because I watched one of your, it was the mini Street View episodes. It was the one, I think you put them on YouTube and stuff, but I saw the clip where,
yes.
it wasn't the disappearing man, was it? There was a shop or a door or something, or a bus stop where it completely moved.
Yes, in Greenland,
that was it.
That's spooked me, that has, yeah.
It's haunted me.
Yeah. I do this. If you go on my website, frankburton.co.uk, there's a video series called The Ragbag Rambler, which is me going on Street View and spotting kind of weird things, and it's a lot of fun. I've got some more lined up. I just haven't got time to put them out, so I haven't done it. But this thing with Greenland was that I found this. Because the thing you can do on Street View, you can look at different things from a different angle. You move a little further along the street, but every time you move further along this street, the bus stop moves. It moves kind of a couple of feet down the street, and then from another angle, it's completely moved to the opposite end. And there's a guy. You can tell they're all taken on the same day because there's a guy in a blue coat who's walking towards it and stopping at the bus stop, and then every kind of little. You move a little bit longer, and the guy's moved a little bit, and the bus stop has moved, and it's very odd, very strange. Yeah,
I'll try and make sure I put a link to that, because when I watched that, it was absolutely cracking me up. It did freak me out in a little way, in a fun way, but it was just cracking me up like that. The Ragbag Rambler. There you go. That's a tongue twister and a half, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
and the fun thing about that, I'm doing it in character as Fictional Frank, and Fictional Frank is he just sort of he kind of overemphasizes things quite a bit, so it freaked me out, but it freaked him out more than that, so he's kind of like a heightened version of reality, dramatized
Frank Burton.
Yeah.
Oh man, well that was absolutely fantastic. It was always good hearing about your many projects, and it's always exciting to talk to you about them and to be able to just tell you how much I enjoy them whenever we have our conversations. It was this time I recently got an Audible subscription, so I was like, when we've spoken things, I was like, I need to make sure I don't get sucked into something major, because I want to listen to Frank's book and things before I go down a big old rabbit hole of stuff. And there's no reason not to, guys. There's I think getting away with it's like 10 or so hours, so it's great. There's so much content. You can either have it for free or you can give him a bit of dinero, but you can be nice, give him some money on Bandcamp and stuff. And we'll put links in the description and whatnot, and obviously his Twitter, his token Twitter as well. And is there any final words from you, Frank, before we hang this call up?
No, be good to yourselves and each other.
Thank you. That was excellent. What a way to end it. And that's the end of the podcast. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. As I said in the intro, make sure you check out Frank's previous appearances on Genuine Chit-Chat if you haven't already. There's episodes 34, 56 and 86. And also make sure you check out Frank's website, as well as the audiobook versions of Getting Away With It and also Everything I Am. Also his book, The 100 as well, but that's not specifically related to the Ragbag universe. So, it is a good book and it's worth a listen, but I really recommend listening to Getting Away With It and Everything I Am. And obviously check out my guest appearances on the Ragbag podcast, as well as Frank's other podcast, I Like the Sound. So just before I delve into what's coming up on Genuine Chit-Chat, make sure you check out lots of my other guest appearances as well. They are in the description. So I appeared on the Hall of Mirrors podcast. You can listen wherever you're listening to this podcast, or you can watch the video version on YouTube. I've appeared on Star Wars Timeline, which is on YouTube 3 times, each time to talk about a sequel Star Wars movie. So one on The Force Awakens, one on The Last Jedi, and one on The Rise of Skywalker. Technically, they're like my second, third, and fourth appearances, but they're the most recent ones. I also appeared on the Beer Nuts Peanuts Productions podcast, so make sure you listen to that. It was only like 25 minutes or something, and it's quite fun. Me and Goff always get along because he's been on this show loads of times, and it's quite fun to hear me on his show as opposed to him being on my show. And he will be returning in 2022 to this show as well, so fear not. So other things I've got coming up. So I've got a conversation with Brad Sugars, who is someone who was on the podcast, I think about 2 years ago, and he's going to be coming on the show again. I've got some plans for some other people to return on the show before the end of the year, if I can make that happen. But I've also, I think next week is probably going to be a special episode I recorded with Megan, Rhea, and Jack. Rhea and Jack are of Pop Gorillas, as well as Indie Comic Spotlight, and they're on the Comics in Motion family. So obviously where my Star Wars podcast airs, Star Wars Comics in Canon, on the feed of Comics in Motion with loads of other shows. Jack and Rhea are part of that family. And also their brother and sister, which makes it even more so like a literal family as well. And the special episode is basically the four of us discussing Star Wars Visions, which is the anime anthology series, which is on Disney Plus right now. And we go through each of the 9 episodes and give our thoughts on them. And we don't agree with everything with each other, but it's quite an interesting way just to do a breakdown on those things, because they're all quite interesting and different. Some land better than others, but yeah, that's what's going to happen next week. In addition to that, guys, obviously I already mentioned my Star Wars podcast. You can watch those episodes on YouTube at Genuine Chit-Chat, unless you're already there right now listening to this on YouTube. Therefore, hello, go check out my playlists. Or you can listen on the feed of Comics in Motion, or you can just type in Star Wars Comics in Canon, wherever you listen to podcasts, and it will come up. Episodes air on Comics in Motion every Saturday. And I just released a book review, a spoiler-free book review of The Rising Storm, which is a High Republic novel by Cavan Scott. So, go check that out if Star Wars is your kind of thing. And in addition to that, the only thing really to add is my Patreon. So patreon.com/genuine chit-chat. I'm sure lots of you regular listeners are sick of hearing me talking about it, but if anyone is new, or if anyone is suddenly has come into lots of money and wants to give me some, then you can contribute for as little as £1 a month. You get early access to episodes. Whenever I split episodes in 2 parts, you get access to both parts when part 1 drops on the normal feed. But if that wasn't enough, you also get additional content every single week. So me and Megan released something called Afterthoughts, and it's basically, currently we're in Scotland and stuff, so we've already recorded 2 in the car. So either we go on road trips and record while we're driving and things. Normally the person who's the passenger is holding the phone, and then we chat about the road trip we're going on, or random other bits and pieces. But the main thing that we do on there is talk about TV series and movies. We just pick one, normally after we watch it, and then we chat about it for like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. And we've done a lot of them now. I think we're near about 50 or so. It might be a bit more, because we release more than one a week on times where part 2 of an episode drops on this feed, so that all patrons get something every Sunday, whether it's a standard episode of Genuine Chit-Chat or it's an Afterthoughts episode. So I think we've done, about 50 or so. So there's hours and hours of additional content on there. I've done a couple of comic reviews as well, just by myself, and we do spoiler-free reviews of new movies, like Venom Let There Be Carnage was a recent one, and we watched a lot of horror films recently. But also we do TV show reviews, which are also spoiler-free. So we did Narcos Series 1 and 2, and Schitt's Creek, and a couple of others as well. We've got more plans to do other stuff too. I know we're going to be watching Harry Potter around Christmas. We watched Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in the cinema semi-recently for its 20th anniversary, so we're going to be watching the rest of the Harry Potter films and doing afterthoughts on all of those too, probably around Christmas. So there's loads of cool things. If you want to support the show, as I said, it's as £1 a month for America, or for Americans. I think that's like $1.50 or something along those lines. So for less than a cup of coffee once a month, you get access to hours of additional content, early access to certain episodes, including like my book reviews. Whenever I put them on Star Wars Comics in Canon, they come out a few days early on Patreon as well. There's also, for slightly higher tiers, there's more stuff as well, but generally I try and push the £1 a month thing, because you get access to the feed. You can either listen to it on Patreon, either the app or the website, or you can put the RSS feed that I give you into whatever podcast app you listen to, and then you just get access to the feed immediately. And it just means, you can go through the whole back catalogue, listen to loads of stuff, and whenever something new gets put on there, you'll get notified, all those sorts of things. So if you want to support the show and you want to get loads of additional content as well, please go to patreon.com/genuine chit-chat. It means the absolute world to me. I've got a couple of new patrons recently, which is incredible. And the more the merrier, as I always say when I'm talking about this. And the link is in the description in case you don't want to hand type it in for whatever reason. Anyway, guys, that is enough from me. Thank you as always for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you, especially listening right to the very end. I hope you enjoyed this week. I hope you're going to enjoy next week's one. And I hope you keep listening, especially if you're a new listener. So, hope you have a good week. And I'll talk to you next week with the Star Wars Visions episode.
You have just experienced host, creator, everything elser of Genuine Chit-Chat, and also the host and creator of Star Wars Comics in Canon, found on the Comics in Motion podcast, Mike Burton.